So my friends, welcome to a new crypto update video. Bitcoin at 117,250 US dollars. We're seeing a pump pretty much everywhere, especially with the altcoins. What's the reason for this? Of course, it's also because of the Fed's interest rate decision, since Powell commented that inflation is only temporary and that with the rate cuts, we'll naturally get the job market back under control. Everything outside really looks beautiful. Now, thanks to the rate cuts, everything is naturally going to get better. That's driving the markets, but overall, the whole speech didn't really sound that good. So we have concerns about tariffs, we have concerns about inflation, we have a weak job market, although that might only be temporary. We'll see how all of this plays out over the next few weeks. There are slight disagreements regarding the rate cuts for next year, and even for this year. Not all Fed members are convinced that we should go for another 0.5% cut this year. Nevertheless, this is giving the markets a boost for now. Let's see how long that lasts. In any case, we'll take a look at all of this in today's update video. But before we get started, as always, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and join the free Telegram talk and Signal group. There you'll always get the latest updates. Earlier, I also gave a quick update on Avalanche, which we'll take another look at in a moment. And otherwise, tonight at 7 o'clock, for the third time this week, there will be a live stream with your altcoin coins, with all the analyses, etc. Today, everything will be calm again, not like yesterday when the Fed interest rate decision was announced. So everyone tune in tonight at 7 o'clock. All right, let's get started. Bitcoin, as I said, is at $117,200. Bitcoin hasn't really, gotten going here, I have to say at this point. We still have our uptrend. That's clear and visible. The long position is still running, and the short position is also still active. Which short position? Still the one from this sell zone with the bot. Other than that, not much has really happened here. The only thing that has happened is that we've now tested the golden pocket exactly. And if you remember in the video from yesterday or the day before, we saw a lot of liquidations in the heat map. You can see that very clearly here. The 117 to 117.8 range was perfectly hit here. Yesterday evening during the Fed interest rate decision, most of the liquidity was down here. Then there was a brief dip, and in the end, the trend continued upwards. There isn't much liquidity left to the upside now. Still, the 118 and 120 levels are still possible. And then it continues with 114 and 117,000 US dollars. Let's take a look at the funding rates. They are slowly but surely rising. And especially if we look at the altcoins, which have surged dramatically in the last few hours, we also see a significant increase in funding rates there, especially with Solana, which was still completely negative last week and is now clearly in the positive. Just something to keep an eye on. It's Thursday, and Thursday is always a bit of a reversal day. Tonight, we also have some important data coming up, namely Japan's interest rate decision. I don't expect Japan to raise interest rates this time. No. But I do expect that the forecast might be, okay, hey, look, we'll raise them in October then. Just keep an eye on that. It could still come up for us today. Otherwise, if we look at today's data for Thursday, there really isn't much else coming except for the continuing jobless claims and the initial jobless claims. Paul will be keeping a close eye on that now. That's definitely something we need to watch. The forecast is for 241,000, initial claims. So let's see what comes up. Otherwise, as I said, very, very little has happened regarding the overall picture for Bitcoin. I'd say let's move over to the altcoins. There's been a bit more action there. Ethereum has held perfectly at the 200 SMA. That's a good sign. The next thing we need now is definitely a higher high. Otherwise, this ABC movement downward is still fully in play here. At the very least, that would be invalidated if we now shoot upwards here. Otherwise, if we take a quick look at the altcoins, as I just mentioned, Avalanche has now reached its technical price target from our symmetrical triangle to the upside. The price target has now been reached at over $32. With that, we have also just barely surpassed our wave 3 target up here at $32.81. We reached $33.26. For me, this is clearly a sell zone, both in terms of the trade and of course spot bags as well. I will sell a portion of my spot bags here. The larger portion, if we reach it, should be up here between $39 and $42. But the altcoin season is still coming, right? Well, we'll see about that. Otherwise, I'll continue to take profits here. But we're seeing pretty much the same chart patterns everywhere, I have to say at this point. We had consolidation everywhere. Cardano looks pretty much the same as Ethereum. Then we have XRP, which is held perfectly at the 200 SMA. Here too, the next move could still go upwards, but as I said, be careful. Same thing with hype, pumps upwards, looks good, but take profits, secure your positions. We're heading towards Thursday. You know about Reversal Thursday, and we don't know yet what impact the data will ultimately have. Let's move on to the traditional markets. Gold had an up and down day yesterday. As I said, we're still in our sell zone. That means up here, the next take profit is still possible. Same story for silver. It also lost a bit of ground. The sell zone had an effect for now. Still, we might be heading into a situation where there will be two more rate decisions, or rather 2 cuts this year, which leads me to believe that at least gold and silver will continue to benefit from that. Of course, the statements were a bit vague, I have to say, yesterday, so it wasn't exactly what the bulls might have hoped for, but still, for gold and silver, this should at least provide further momentum for now. Let's move on to the stock markets. Dow Jones hit a new all-time high yesterday following the rate decision. Yeah, okay, let's see how this continues to develop. In any case, the trend line here was tested again for now. Still a new all-time high. Nasdaq struggled a bit yesterday, filled the box here, at least the inefficiency, and is still holding up. But if we zoom in a bit here, we definitely need to get above this resistance up here. So that means getting above the mark of around 24,285 points would be a start. S&P 500 remains at the same level, hardly any movement. Then for those who brought up the idea of the Russell Index to me yesterday, also a new all-time high yesterday at the time of the Fed rate decision with almost 5 points, a new all-time high, just as a side note. So now we really have all the big players at their all-time high limits. Keep an eye on it, act cautiously, and then let's quickly move down to the stocks. D-Wave, extreme breakout. So congratulations to everyone who went long here as well. A very, very nice breakout at this point. This week it has pumped. I'm not sure exactly where we got in. I think it was here by 40%. Very, very good. Congratulations to everyone. Otherwise, Circle is still consolidating quite a bit. It's not really breaking out. Yesterday it was already at $146, but then it was sharply sold off again. So you still have to keep an eye on it for a bit. On the other hand, D-Wave is really performing perfectly. All right, with that, I'd say that's it from my side for now. I think we've pretty much gone through everything. Oh no, the euro against the US dollar, that's still left. Sorry, totally forgot about that. Yeah, a quick spike up and immediately back down again. On the other hand, the DXY has perfectly, possibly, I have to say at this point, hit its bottom. If you remember, we said this blue line down here would be the next support at 96.2. That's exactly where the inefficiency was. That's exactly where the vector candle was. So the dollar might also be ready for a reversal. So the next few days are definitely going to be extremely exciting in my opinion. Protect yourselves, take profits, and that's it. Don't let yourself get overhyped or anything like that right now. Like I said, the speech wasn't really the most bullish thing I've ever heard, but rather a bit more critical. You have to be careful, but it was still pretty boring. All right, with that, I'd say let's wait and see what happens later today, or rather until this evening, and then at 7 o'clock tonight, we'll take another look. Otherwise, I wish you a nice and successful day. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next video. There's another video coming out today, WEEX video. Feel free to check it out already at this point. There's 100 positions airdrop. That means you deposit $100 and get 100 USDT positions airdrop, or $1,000 and get $1,000. So check it out. I'll put the link in the video description. That's it for now. We'll talk again this evening for the live stream. Until then, ciao, ciao, and as always, stay crypto.